A side, B side, what side are you on?
Hello.
Hello.
I don't know why I made that like a song, but yes. Hello.
Let's go. I think we almost harmonized, or we were singing the same note. I felt
two,
it was
3, 4. Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
I said 2, 3, 4. You were supposed to jump back in, Adam.
I'm sorry. I did. Our tonality is so good. It sounds like one voice. I mean, there's probably like it's almost like a footprints poem for radio podcasting.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
What was that one point in the podcast when your voices were one? Why was there only one voice?
Yeah.
Because that's when Brooke was carrying me.
Unfortunately, starting today off with some really sad news. If you have watched So You Think You Can Dance, or if you are a fan of Ellen, the Ellen Show at all, Stephen Twitch Boss, unfortunately lost his life today by his own hand. And the situation, of course, as it keeps unfolding, it's just, I was on TikTok earlier, and like a video from 2 days ago popped up, and he's like dancing with his wife and his youngest daughter, and everybody's always like, he was a bright light, he was this and he was that, and it just further goes to show you just don't know somebody's personal battle.
Yeah. I think I saw one somebody, the quote that they used, I think it was Glennon Doyle on Instagram, said, use a quote that people often attribute to refugees, where it's like, someone doesn't leave or go anywhere unless the water is safer than the land. So if it has to become so untenable where you are to decide to go somewhere else, and you don't really know what's going on in anybody's head.
I know, it's heartbreaking, when you feel like you not necessarily know someone, but you've seen them so much. He was always such a happy, joyous person, like on Ellen and on the dance shows and on his social medias with his family. It's just, and they just celebrated their 9-year anniversary, he and his wife, on the 10th. They just celebrated their 9-year anniversary, and then of course with the holidays coming up, and I know people are like, peace and thoughts and prayers, but like seriously, in this case, just because there really isn't anything else we can do except just send her all our best wishes.
And this is a really difficult time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
The holidays, I mean, I don't have statistics or data to back this up at my fingertips, but it always feels like there is a increase in those challenges and those feelings of loneliness and pressure and family dynamics that don't work great, and people looking back at the last year and reevaluating your life. The holiday season can be really hard for anybody that's thinking about not sticking around.
And there is help. I just had it up, and I want to make sure that I do have it, because there's always help. The number has changed, and they've made it super easy. It's just 988, and there is help. There's always somebody to talk to. I know the thing people are always say is like, well, if you aren't feeling good, reach out. That's the time when people don't want to reach out.
Yeah, that's when it's hardest.
That is when it's hardest
to reach out.
Totally help, and it's 988. Of course, you can always call 911. Oh, it's just really, it's a sad situation, a sad day, and his family is gonna be on the mend for a while.
And it's one of those things where we tell people to reach out, but as we said, that's really hard, especially this time of year. Just randomly reaching out to somebody, texting somebody you haven't seen in a while, and even just checking in. Those little things, I mean, if we all did that, I think even if you're not dealing with big mental health challenges, those little things can brighten your day. I mean, it's like the thing I try to tell my kids when we're out doing eating at a restaurant, and everyone's like, oh, do chip 10% or 20%, or what is. I usually think about, when it comes down to it, if I add $1, is the dollar going to impact my day that much? Probably not.
Mhm.
I'll probably be a little bummed when I walk past the claw machine on the way out of the store and I don't have that dollar in my pocket to use on it. But that's going to be a very minor thing. But that dollar may change somebody's perception of the rest of their shift.
Right.
And that little, I don't, when it comes down to it, was like, can I make somebody's day for a dollar in any other way? And probably not. So it's sometimes the little stuff that we can do has a bigger impact than we even think of. So text the people, not your ex, but text everybody else.
Yeah, do not text the ex. Everybody
Yeah.
else, yes.
Yeah. And like, I think it was, I saw this one book, and the title was Don't Text Your Ex on Happy Birthday. And I was like, okay, wow, we're just really getting right into it. But I was like, I get it. Like it made a lot of sense. It was
no
like
need to mince words.
And it basically counted like you're deciding, like, by you texting them happy birthday, you're now making their birthday about you, because you're popping back into their life and they've got to think about you and why things didn't go or why it did go well or whatever. So don't make their birthday about you.
Oh, that's a valid point. That's a very valid point.
We're just dishing them out here. Text your people, but don't text your ex happy birthday. Holidays are hard. Anything else we can fix? It's only been like 5 minutes, but I feel like we got a few more things. Migrant workers, stop falling off of stuff in Qatar. Qatar, pay your migrant workers. Boom.
Oh man, Colin Jost made a joke about it. People were like really upset about it on Saturday Night Live Weekend Update, but and then people are like, yeah, but he's got a point.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the beauties of comedy, and especially like Weekend Update, where they can make jokes about something, but then give it more light and make people talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, because some of this stuff isn't getting talked. You can watch the entire, like, I've watched pretty much every second of the World Cup, and you would not know there was much of any controversy about, why are we even in Qatar? Why are we doing this in the middle of December as opposed to the summer? Any of that, because they don't want to talk about the bad stuff. They're going to brush it over.
So. Right. Speaking of the World Cup, who's winning? Like, what's going on?
So we are down to the final. Today was the last semifinal, and it was a bummer because the Cinderella of the tournament, Morocco, who had not allowed a goal to be scored by anyone on the other team. They had an own goal in one of their games. They had the best defense in the cup. They're the first African nation to get to a semifinal. They were like a team without a big star. They all just played really well. They went up against the juggernaut that is France, and France won. And now it'll be France versus Argentina on Sunday morning. In either the first back-to-back winner of the World Cup since the 1960s, or arguably the greatest player of all time, Messi, will finally win a World Cup and a major championship with Argentina and be able to put those ghosts to bed. So it's been pretty great. So that has definitely been the majority of my TV time in the past couple of weeks, has been World Cup soccer.
And you've loved every minute of it.
I really have. I miss the Premier League, and I'm very excited that it's coming back here. Like, already some games are going to happen like a week from today, next Tuesday, Wednesday, for the FA Cup, and that's great. But the fact that I can get up virtually every single day and have a soccer game on in the morning and in the afternoon has been wonderful, and also a big challenge for my productivity. So that's going to spike here now that the tournament is almost over.
I watched, I have not been watching World Cup. You've been posting updates, and we've talked about it a little bit, but, and I've been getting updates from other people, but I can tell you, I finally finished season 2 of White Lotus.
Oh, I've heard, very good things.
Yeah, until the season finale. And it's like, why would you do this to me? Why did you do that to me? Like,
they set you up.
The same thing. Like, they set you up. They've got this great season, and then the season finale, you're just like, what?
I kind of felt that way with the season finale of Wednesday. Like,
see that
the rest of the series was so good, and the season finale just felt so like forced, and
the buildup was so hyped up and so good.
Yeah, and then it felt like we did like the ending of Clue.
Yeah.
Like where they're running around the house because they're trying to tie up all the loose ends.
Yeah. I will say on Wednesday, and as far as that's concerned. Jenna Ortega kills the role.
Oh yeah, very good. And you know what is it absolutely embarrassing for me?
Hmm.
And I don't know if they did this on purpose. I mean, granted, she was made to look different.
Mm-hmm.
Had no idea until probably the last 10 minutes when she takes her glasses off like Superman.
If you tell me you didn't realize that was Christina Ricci, I will.
I did not realize that was Christina Ricci the
Are
entire
you
time.
kidding me?
I am not joking.
The whole
She took the
cool part
glasses
about
off.
it.
Yeah, no, that's then I appreciated it so much more once I realized it. But I was seriously, it was the glasses. I was like, she took the glasses off, and I'm like, oh, that's Christina Ricci. Like,
Oh
I'm like,
my
yeah, I guess
gosh.
evidently I would totally have not known Clark Kent was Superman.
Yeah, you are that one person that were like,
Yeah.
like oh,
me and the citizens of the DC universe, but glasses are very confusing. Yeah, I was so embarrassed. I was like, I'm sitting here and I'm watching it and I'm with my dog, and so like Lorelai does not really understand the embarrassment here. She's more concerned as to why I suddenly jumped up off the couch and realized, had a eureka moment. But I'm like, I have to tell somebody. I was like, I'll just wait and tell Brooke. She'll love this because I just really at it. Like we didn't even talk. Like we talked about Wednesday last week, and you were like, yeah, and Christina's Ricci's in it. And in my brain, I'm glad I didn't say it out loud because it would have ruined the moment for me. But I was like, oh, she must be in the season finale somehow. I haven't seen her yet.
Well, yeah, she is in the season.
Yeah, she's in the season finale.
As well as every other episode.
Every other episode, Adam. Gee whiz. Somebody wears glasses, and I'm like, you're a completely new person. She's also got the red hair wig. But
oh my gosh. Oh man.
Yeah, I had no idea. So that's probably what Adam's, my days as a media consumer have hit their nadir. I was like, well, when people are distracted or like confusing you with costumes as elaborate as a dyed hair and glasses and you can't find them, then
don't go into private investigations. Okay.
I know. Now I can never become a gumshoe. I already learned that it's very hard because that was my plan when I was a little kid. I was going to wear a trench coat and a fedora and I was going to solve crimes. And I really just have a
cigar because they always had the cigars.
I mean, I would just have a real cigar. Why do you think I smoked cigars?
Well, not as a child.
Well, not as a child. No, that's true. Now, probably like a carrot or something. But yeah, that would be great. I have a trench coat. Don't have a fedora. Not a licensed private investigator. So I'm gonna have to play one on TV at some point.
Oh goodness! All right.
I think I'd be on NCIS as like the bumbling private investigator that somehow gets involved in the murder. Like I stumble over the body and they're all like, oh, you like did the crime scene. I'm like, I don't know. I had a sandwich. I dropped it. My bad.
You're Fletch.
Yeah. Have you seen the new Fletch with John Hamm?
I have not.
I heard that he did it basically for free because he loves Fletch and like took virtually no money for it. And so it makes me want to see it even more because when I saw it was coming out, I was like, did we really need this?
Right?
Yeah, I was like, I don't feel like we needed this. And Chevy Chase ain't dead.
Right?
Is he? Chevy Chase ain't dead.
No. This is okay. I was reading an article that this is like his like season. This is his like, what did they compare it to? Like his Star Wars convention or something like that, because so many people watch Christmas Vacation right now.
Yeah.
Like conventions and stuff.
People love that.
Yeah, I mean,
I was never Vacation. My parents didn't like Vacation, so we never really watched it as a kid. It was the humor was a little too crude, for the Weingarten household. So I guess I just never saw it at the right time. But I was like, it's kind of like the Christmas Story. I only ever saw the Christmas Story when it was like edited on TBS for like was on every night for a week, and you couldn't help but watch it on accident at some point.
Right. Little Ralphie yells, yeah. But Christmas Vacation is so popular. They've got like a promotion with Raising Cane's, and it's like all over. They've got
it's like in all the commercial, like every commercial where they're spoofing it with the Christmas lights,
Yeah.
And the guy standing out there with like the two cards about to plug them in. like when we're spoofing it in like a Radio Shack commercial. Actually, it couldn't be a Radio Shack commercial. Radio Shack doesn't
No.
exist. Way to date yourself, Adam.
That's
Jeez,
like
at least
saying,
somebody will.
yeah, in the last Blockbuster commercial I saw.
There's still one Blockbuster in Oregon.
Just the one. Yep,
Just the one, and I'd like to go visit it. I was not close when I was in those Western states. People forget, like I forget. I shouldn't blame people. I forget how big they are. They are gigantic.
Pretty vast.
Like we were in Spokane, and my brother's in-laws flew in from Seattle, and in my brain I'm like, flew in from Seattle, what is that, like a 2-hour drive from one side of the state to the other? And they're like 6. It was like, oh, legit. Okay, my bad. 6 hours, I can get to Chicago. So
right? Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Well, 8 for me, but still.
Yeah, but I mean, so you're like 3 states away, and there you're just still in Washington.
Right.
And from my brother says there's not a much between Spokane and Seattle either.
So. Probably like, well, I don't know. Yeah, probably like when I drove through Nebraska, and it was literally just corn and a few windmills.
Yeah. I often tell a story. One of the first times that I learned to drive on the freeway, we were in Oklahoma, and the hardest part was getting up to speed, and then I didn't turn for an hour. The road was flat, so it was real easy to drive. Just get up to 65 and hold.
Oh man. Well, before you jump in, I have to tell you, I like literally just started. Like I'm 10 minutes in, and then I had to pause it. This new show on Hulu. I think it's an FX show, and it's called Kindred. And it kind of reminds me a bit of a movie that Janelle Monáe did, Antebellum. I don't know if you saw that. It's a couple years old.
I saw that it came out. I did not actually see that one, but more of a period piece, sort of.
Kind of, yeah. So
like, but it also had like a sci-fi.
Yeah. So this has a sci-fi. From what I have read, like I said, I'm like 10 minutes in. From what I have read, there's a woman who is in current time, but somehow she ends up time shifting to like Antebellum South and back.
Ooh. So that would be like a bad time.
Yes. It's a young Black female. So you can.
Yeah, it's a very bad time.
So I'm interested to see how this goes. That's going to be my new watch. So I'll keep you updated on that.
So if you accidentally time traveled back in time, I'm pretty sure I would get arrested and then put in the nut bin within like 2 hours. Because I would, like, if we go back to pre-electricity, I have no idea how to do anything.
Oh man.
I would be I would rather go forward in the future than go back in time, because if I go back in time, I have 0 skills. If I go forward in the future, I could just be somebody who's playing somebody from the past.
Right. If you had to, though, like if you had to quantum leap to a time period, is there one that you would?
I would have always said that I wanted to go back to like the Middle Ages when I was a kid and be like, with swords and sorcerers and stuff. But like the lack of like running water and rampant disease and no indoor plumbing, as an adult, don't really want to go back there. But I mean, I think it would be amazing to experience what the country was during World War II and what the world was in, because it was kind of coming out of, just, innovation was happening so much because of the war. And we've read so much about it, and we've, seen so many movies about what it was, kind of glamorizing the world, World War II in that time. But I think I would be fascinated to travel back there and experience it and totally blow everybody's mind when I'm like, you're gonna really love this band called the Beatles.
Yeah. If I could,
I would ruin the timeline. I would immediately start saying stuff I wasn't supposed to.
If I could travel, I would want to go back to like late 60s, 70s, and I would want to be in my mom's timeline, but I wouldn't want to mess up anything. But
That's fair.
I hear the story.
Just go mess up somebody else's mom's timeline.
Yeah, totally. Whatever. Who cares? They're fine. They didn't need that kid anyway.
I'm sure they weren't going to cure cancer.
I just like just the stories that she tells about like college and like her younger years. Like, I'd want to be like her quirky neighbor. Hey, neighbor, something like that, just so I could kind
Like the Agatha Harkness.
of. I'm not going to be the evil wizard at the end.
I mean, yeah, but like the first part where she's
Yeah.
just, the quirky neighbor.
So
yeah.
she just pops up like, hey, neighbor, you need some milk or you need sugar? Like I just want to get like a glimpse of like what her life was like in that time period.
Have you ever not asked a neighbor for like a cup of sugar?
No, not a literal cup of sugar, but I've asked my neighbor for things. Yeah.
I've never gone to my neighbors in any of my houses that I've lived that I recall that wasn't a relative. Like at the lake, there's 3 wine gardens on the same street. So yeah, we'll go over to, Aunt Debbie's place and ask for some ingredients. But I've never gone to just a regular neighbor and
Now it's
asked to
not
borrow
been just like
anything.
a neighbor that I've never met before. Like, hey, neighbor,
Right, somebody-
I don't, don't know who you are, but no, like my neighbor across the hall here, Stacy, like we're friendly. Like we actually, I'll go over there, she'll come over here. We like go out. So I don't asking her or like, it's always been like somebody that I've known, and I'm not going to be all awkward. Like, hey, can I have half a cup of milk?
Yeah. I mean, I think in my building, it never happens, but we do have like the place in the lobby where everyone just leaves stuff if they want to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess that's kind of the thing. Like there's unopened jar of mild chunky salsa downstairs for about 2 days.
So you were like, it's mine.
I was like, well, no, the problem was like, I would have taken it, but I was like, mild. So clearly the entire building is not a mild. This is not a mild salsa building.
Now had it been hot, yeah, baby.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have even seen it. I mean, stuff flies off of that table.
That's hilarious. We don't have a table like that. But I will say that people here are really good about like leaving things. Like if there's a package or something, like it used to be the packages would be delivered until we got an Amazon like lockbox or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. We got one of those. That's pretty cool.
They are, but they would just leave the packages inside the front door. And I mean, there would be packages there for days and nobody took them. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, we had a gentleman sleeping in our festival last night. So
well, all right.
It's cold and rainy and people are looking for a place to stay. So a hoodie.
Okay.
About it. So
right. Well, I got plenty of blankets. I'm telling you. All right. If you are ever in need of a blanket, trust me, I got you. And I just bought another one, and I'm like, why am I buying another blanket? I don't really need it.
But you can never have too many blankets.
I don't feel like you can.
Yeah.
Because I've been that person that has stayed overnight at like a friend's house and have like frozen through the night because they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't really have a lot of blankets. Why did you invite me to stay at your house?
Yeah. Well, I'll just put my jacket on and pretend I'm camping. Although, I mean, I can sleep. I don't sleep well, and it takes me forever to fall asleep. But then by the time I fall asleep, my body is so tired that I can just sleep on like any couch or chair or floor for like, I'm only going to get like 2 hours anyway. So,
right. You're like, it'll be 2 hours wherever.
Yeah. It's not going to be an enjoyable experience whenever I do it. So blankets not going to put me over the top.
Oh man.
All right. So
this week it's 1:20, which means you get to start.
And I am excited and ready for that because I was actually paying attention to what number it was this time. I am just sitting in fear, wondering if I have to go first. We've talked a little bit about all the stuff we've been watching. Of course, I want to shout out Tulsa King, which is still very, very good with Sylvester Stallone. I started Mayor of Kingston with Jeremy Renner, where it's about this basically a town with 5 prisons, and that whole system kind of gritty so far. That's been interesting. But my number one show right now, and I'm holding off on the new episode because it's my reward for finishing the day, has been Willow. It's the new Disney Plus series, which continues the story from the film of 1998. And I've been really excited about it coming out, and I've been trying to talk to people about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it has come to my attention that I might be a bigger Willow fan than most people.
Really?
because
you did do a whole episode
on Willow.
Yeah. On the actor.
On Warwick Davis. Yeah. I was like, I'm about to do a whole episode on Willow, so please tell me I haven't done
No,
this
no, no. I'm
already.
Warwick Davis. Sorry, sorry.
Yeah, I'm Warwick Davis. I mean, so that makes it. But even when I mentioned like, hey, have you heard about this Willow series? People aren't. Oh, there's a series. It's what's Willow?
Oh
And
wow.
so I'm going to dedicate today's A side to a film that I guess, especially younger generations, because the restaurant's back open now, so I'm re interacting with youths again. Because there's so many college kids that work at the restaurant that I feel like a very, very old person. We talk about these things, and they're like, "Oh, when did that movie come out?" I was like, "Oh, 1988." They were like, "I was like negative 15." It's like, "Oh, cool." So you probably didn't see it then. So Willow, which came out in 1998, is a action adventure swords and sorcerer film that was born out of the mind of George Lucas. And he actually had the idea for the story of Willow even back before Star Wars was a thing. So in the mid 70s, Star Wars came out in 76. He was already thinking about the story Willow and writing it down and sketching it out well before Star Wars. They're kind of both in his head at the same time. And one of the biggest complaints about at the time from various critics was that Willow, because it came out, 7 years after Return of the Jedi and after the whole Star Wars trilogy, felt like it had a lot of similar themes. And there definitely are some characters that have similarities. I mean, you've got a warrior princess involved in both films. You've got a reluctant hero, which of course would be Han Solo in the Star Wars trilogy, and then Mad Mardigan is played by Val Kilmer in Willow. You've got some, magic. It's a wand, so it's more traditional magic as opposed to a laser sword and using the Force. And you've got a young person in danger, and then a evil, warlord that's trying to just defeat them and take over the world. So there's a lot of similarities, and I get that. But it seemed like lazy criticism at the time, where somebody saw George Lucas and it's like, oh well, this is just Star Wars, but not in space, and that's incredibly lazy because there's a lot more to it. And what I love about it, and Brooke, you mentioned we've done an entire episode on Warwick Davis as that guy from that show. His autobiography has been on my Christmas list for 2 years now, and I'm probably just going to end up buying it for myself. But he was in Return of the Jedi as the Ewok Wicket, which, as a lot of kids, Wicket was probably my favorite non-main Star Wars character. So I absolutely loved when I found out that there was going to be a movie with that actor, and that George Lucas he had the first idea for this swords and sorcery thing, but he created the character of Willow based on after watching Warwick Davis in Return of the Jedi. So he wrote this for him completely. It was the first time he was ever got to act without a mask on. So the first time you get to see his face, and I did not realize all his hair was totally a wig. That was not his hair, so he didn't get to grow it out. But it was in the late '80s. Lucas is looking to get the film made, but he wants to work with another director, kind of like he did. He's the great idea guy. Sometimes it struggles when he tries to take the lead on everything. I think we saw that with some of the sequels that happened in the late '90s. So he partners up with Ron Howard, who he had actually directed in one of his very first films, American Graffiti, which also was one of Harrison Ford's first films. And Ron Howard, fresh off the success of Cocoon, which was in 1985, and some of the special effects that were used in there were done at the Skywalker Ranch Industrial Light Magic, which was Lucas's company. Grabs Howard, gets him involved, and they really thought this was going to be a huge like trilogy type expand, because Lucas had just done Star Wars, he's done Indiana Jones. You're looking for the next one, and they planned on this being 2 to 3 movies. There were story outlines for it all, but it had trouble pretty much right from the beginning with studios. In the mid '80s, there had been a lot of sword and sorcerer films that had kind of flopped. Even Labyrinth and Legend, which we love today, were considered failures in terms of box office at the time, and many companies wouldn't even touch it. They didn't want to. They wanted to spend the money. They didn't think that it was going to be worthwhile because they've been bombs, and so they bounced around a couple of times. It was all filmed in England, in Wales, and Hertfordshire. In a quarry. So now I have another place on my bucket list that I can go visit because I can be like, oh, this is where that happened the one time, which will be pretty great. But it was a moderate success. It was made for only 35 million, grossed over 137 million, but a lot of that was outside of the US before the worldwide box office was as big a draw as it is now. I mean, you look at something like Avatar, which did pretty well in America, but it did really, really well outside the US. And that's why it became one of the highest grossing movies of all time. But we are going to look at a few fun facts about Willow in case you haven't seen it, because I don't want to ruin the whole story because it's on Disney Plus, and you should go watch the movie Willow so you can watch the new series Willow because it picks up the story about 20 years after the original. And it will not make much sense to you if you try to jump in with the series. Enjoyed it a lot so far. We'll see where it goes. Madmartigan has not made an appearance, and I'm a little concerned that he's not in it. But maybe they couldn't get Val to come back and do it. But he's not in the credits, but he might be one of those surprise, oh, he was back at the end sort of thing. So fingers crossed on that. Check it out. So as I was doing research, I found a few things that I did not know about the movie Willow. And here are just a few of them. Of course, we talked about this one being written specifically for Warwick Davis, but the character that got top billing was Val Kilmer in the role of Madmartigan. However, Val was almost beaten out by the role by another 80s heartthrob, which I would have been really interested to see him in this type of film because he didn't do like an actiony film until late in the 90s. And that was John Cusack, which would have been an entirely different style
That
of
would have been a
Madmartigan.
way different movie.
Right. And so I love the idea that somewhere in the multiverse, there's a Willow movie where Willow was a huge hit, and it might have had John Cusack in it, and we'll never actually get to see it. The movie, as I said, didn't make a ton of money, and so it did not get to become a blockbuster trilogy. However, George Lucas had enough story ideas that he then worked with famous comic book writer Chris Claremont, who's probably best known for his run on X-Men, in 3 books that came out. And even as a fan of the movie, I had no idea these were out there, so I will have to add them to my Christmas list. But there is Shadow Moon, Shadow Dawn, and Shadow Star, which were all novels by Claremont and Lucas, but Lucas was working on the Star Wars prequels at the time, so basically just gave the outlines and all of his information to let Claremont run away. I have not been able to find any documentation if those books are still considered canon or if they got rid of them when they wanted to do this new movie. From everything I've read about the books, they're clearly not going to tie in well with the series, so they'd probably toss those out, but it would still be fun to read, even kind of like the Star Wars Legends universe. One of my favorite parts of the movie is the brownies, which are Kevin Pollak and Rick Overton, who are originally are bad guys that kidnapped the baby, then joined the quest on the side of the good guys. And the little tiny guys. But I always loved it. Everything after I saw Kevin Pollak in, even up to The Usual Suspects, in my head, I was still thinking of him as the brownie from Willow, which kind of sad for him. Whereas Pollak went on to be in a ton of things. Warwick Davis has been in a bunch of movies. Val Kilmer has had success. The actors, or the babies that played baby Elora Danan, who were both twins at the time and were 6 to 8 months old when filming occurred, never acted again.
Oh, wow.
So they probably, in their mind, they've never acted. They never did another movie, and they have no listings on IMDb about anything. There's virtually nothing written about them online. So you have this huge role, but you don't remember it, and you decided to never do it again either. It was originally given a absolutely horrible title called Munchkins, which would have made it feel very Wizard of Oz. So luckily, they got rid of that and went with Willow instead. One of my favorite personal stories about Willow, and again, this is probably why I like it so much, is that there was a young actor who played Willow's son in the film, and he was actually only 12 years younger than Willow himself, who was 17 with the filming of the movie. But he was from Minnesota, and a friend of mine played him in grade school basketball in the mid 90s. And there is video that I've been told of, and always everyone's got their 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and that's my back door into the entire Star Wars universe is Andy played basketball with the kid from Willow, which was everyone's got their 6 degrees. And I love that that was mine. There were also, two Joanne Whalley, who played the princess, would then go on to marry Val Kilmer. They were married for almost a decade and had 2 children. But that is not the only person that she wounded, maybe on set, whereas his heart fell for her. At one scene uh, in the pub, she slams her sword into the floor, and evidently it went directly into a stuntman's foot, who did not react immediately, and they didn't lose the scene. But that's a dedication to get stabbed in the foot and not ruin the scene, and get to continue. But probably my favorite thing that I learned about Willow is that there was, I probably shouldn't admit that I love being petty. Like, I think it is a natural thing. Sometimes you're just in a bad mood and you want to be petty, and it's a human emotion. Is it great to live that way? Probably not. But
Look,
there are some times when I like to
sometimes you
be
just
petty.
have to be, because I can have lost count at how many times I've texted you and said, "You ready to be petty?"
And it happens. But I don't know that I will ever be petty enough to, if I get to make a film, decide that 2 villains in the film are named after actual movie critics. So at one point in the final climactic battle, spoiler alert, there's a 2-headed dragon that appears, and the 2-headed dragon was named Eborsisk, which was a combination of Robert Ebert and Gene Siskel as the bad guy, and then another bad guy for the film, General Kale, was named after yet another critic as well. So I was named after Pauline Kael, who was notorious for giving scathing reviews of especially popular films, and had never ever given George Lucas a good review on anything he directed or produced in his whole life. So she also predictably gave a negative review of Willow, but did admit to being flattered and amused by the fact that the evil general is named after her. So George Lucas, still being petty, kind of love it. And those are a few things about Willow that I did not know. And if you've never seen it, I highly recommend checking it out. It is a perfect Friday night family movie. The series has been inventive. They're doing some different things with it. It's fun to see modern special effects in that world, because the special effects, while advanced for the time and award winning, don't hold up as much as you'd like. It was the age of late 80s, early 90s, where we're beginning to merge practical and digital effects, and there are still some spots where it doesn't feel completely as pure as it would nowadays. But so check that out. Willow is on Disney Plus, and the Willow series is coming out every Wednesday. There are 3 to 4 episodes out already, and you can pick up right after the movie, but 20 years. So check it out, and that is the A side.
All right. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
So last week we talked about Betty Lou Beats. So we had a lady. We're jumping back on the lady train, and well, we're going to continue on the lady murder train, if you will.
That is a statement that you can make that is not okay if I make.
Oh my goodness. This week we are talking about Marie No. So Marie No was born Marie Leidy on August 23rd of 1928 in Philadelphia.
So wait, her last name is No, like N-O?
N-O-E.
N-O-E. Okay. Because I was confused. I thought we were talking about her, but then you changed your mind and we weren't talking about her. So that's her last
name. We're going to talk about Marie, but no. So I'm not guessing it's No, like based on Poe, like Edgar Allan Poe, P-O-E, No. So
yeah, I mean, I checks out.
Yeah. So she was born August 23rd of 1928 in Philadelphia in the Kensington neighborhood to her mother, Ella Ackler and James Leidy. She's one of several children born. And of course, like we always hear, it was a troubled marriage. Marie ended up getting scarlet fever when she was 5 years old, which later in life has been said to have caused her some learning difficulties. So, like we've heard a lot in these stories from the earlier days, it it caused her, like I said, to have some learning disabilities. She ended up dropping out of school as a teenager and she went to work. And she also had to take care of her niece that was born to one of her older sisters when Marie was just 12 years old. And this older sister took care of Marie and raised her like she was her own. Marie ends up meeting a man named Arthur Allen No. It's something with the name Edgar Allan Poe, Arthur Allen No, whatever. Whatever.
I mean, people were really into three names back in the day, I think.
I think so.
Like it feels like everybody was using like more names than we do now, but that may just be like a Adam moment that I think it's real. It's not.
So Marie and Arthur meet on January 1st of 1941 in a nightclub, a private nightclub in Philly. They dated for a brief time and then they run off and elope. Now, here's where Marie's story gets wild. Marie is the worst case of maternal homicide in recorded history. So Marie and Arthur, they get married and they have 10 children. How many of those children survive? 0.
Oh, ouch.
All of their children die between the ages of 5 days and 14 months. We have Richard Allen No, born March 7th, 1949. He passes away a month later on April 7th. Elizabeth Mary No, September 8th. She's born of 1950. She passes away several months later, February 17th, 1951. Jacqueline No is born April 23rd of 1952. She passes away less than a month later at May 3rd. Exactly 1 year after Jacqueline was born, Arthur No Jr. was born April 23rd, 1955. I said 1 year, I'm sorry, 3 years, exactly 3 years. He passes, well, within 3 days, April 23rd, he passes away. Constance No was born February 24th of 1958. She passes not quite a month later at March 20th of 1958. Letitia No was born August 24th of 1959. Her cause of death was actually natural causes. She was stillborn. There was a knot in her umbilical cord. So that's check 1 for natural, and we're at 6 so far. Mary Lee No, born June 19th of 1962. She passes away 6 months later, June 4th of 1963. Teresa No, baby number 8, dies in the hospital June 3rd of 1963. She actually is the second of the natural death causes. Her cause of death was congenital hemorrhagic diathesis.
That sounds awful.
So she had like a blood problem.
Yeah.
Catherine Elaine No, the 9th child, was born December 3rd of 1964 and passed away February 24th of 1966. So she made it a little bit of time. And then you have Arthur Joseph No, born July 28th of 1967, passes away January 2nd of 1968. It was during the birth of her last child. She had a C-section. She had a uterine rupture and she had to have a hysterectomy. Therefore, she was not able to have any more children. Oof. She probably would have kept this trend going.
Yeah.
In 1963, Life magazine published a really sympathetic article about Marie. It was written by a woman named Mary Cadwallader, and it didn't use her real name. It used pseudonyms Martha and Andrew Moore for me and her husband. And it talked about the death of 6 of her children, because this was in 1963. So remember, she had some children pass away after that.
After that fact.
Everybody is thinking at the time that she's lost all these children, the 2 to the natural causes, and they're thinking that the other 8 passed away from SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. So in 1997, there's a book published. It's called The Death of the Innocents. It's about a New York woman named Juanetta Hoyt. And it kind of reinvigorates interest in Marie, because I think after reading the book, people were like, something just doesn't seem right. Then there was an investigative article called Cradle to Grave by Stephen Freed that appeared in the March 25th, 1998 episode of Philadelphia Magazine, all about Marie No. Stephen Fried talked about Marie and her children and how things just seemed kind of suspicious. After, again, it's an investigative article, so he's like researching, like, how is this baby dying from this, how is this baby dying from this, okay, this one seems valid, this one seems valid, but what about this one, what about this one? So he takes all of the results of his investigation to the Philadelphia Police Department the day after his article is released. It's turned out the day after it comes out, they the police, once Stephen turns over all this evidence, the police go and they question Marie. Marie and Arthur had just finished dinner when police came knocking at their door. It's about 4:30 p.m. They're older, you know. 3 officers from the Special Investigations Unit of the Philadelphia Homicide Division knock on the door and they're like, hey, do you have some time that we could, talk to you? We have a couple of questions for you. And they're like, yeah, sure. I mean, she's probably thinking, we got away with it. So they go down to the police station. A 12-hour investigation, or after a 12-hour inquisition, I guess you could call it, questioning by the police, Marie admits she killed her. She was like, yeah, I did it. She admits to killing 4 of them. Now there's 4 more that are still under suspicious circumstances, and she's like, I can't remember what happened. Can you imagine being a mother and 4 of your children have died, and you're like, yeah, I don't know how they died. I probably did it.
I mean, I would hope I'm not a psychopath, but I mean, do you feel like they just got tired at that point of she confessed to 4, so we're gonna get her on 4? Then we don't really. Can you imagine being the cop asking, like, do you really want to know more details?
No, I don't want to know that you killed the 4 by suffocation, and then the other 4 you're just so like blasé, like, I don't remember. Whatever.
Yeah, so she would be like a good villain in a Willow like movie.
No, she would. Yeah.
We're talking about Willow, and the evil queen is trying to kill baby Laura Dannon, and now we got the real life version.
Then you got the real life. So she's charged with first-degree murder in August of 1998. Again, 2 of her children, and that's by the Philly district attorney. And again, we talked about 2 of her children. They were proven to have died of natural causes. So we've got 8 deaths here. So she reaches a plea agreement. She admits to 8 counts of second-degree murder, and she's sentenced in June of 1999 to, get this, 20 years probation with the first 5 years under house arrest.
Probation?
Still prison, probation, and house arrest. Yeah. As a condition of her plea agreement, she has to agree to participate.
Stop killing people.
Yeah. She has to agree to participate in a psychiatric study by a team of international experts because they're hoping to identify what caused her to kill her children.
Yeah, they're like, well, maybe something good. We can learn something about this scenario and help it, maybe avoid it in the future for other people.
Right. So
thinking that maybe there's something that set her off with what we learned.
Right. It's basically like the living version of donating your brain to science.
Yeah.
But that study never happened. In September of 2001, there was a study that happened. It was a study that was filed with the court that said that Marie No had a mixed personality disorder with avoidant, dependent, narcissistic, histrionic, borderline, paranoid, and antisocial features. So she had lots of issues.
Yeah, a lot going on.
So now remember, she's sentenced to 20 years probation with the first 5 on house arrest. Well, after her house arrest, Marie basically just stayed in the house with her husband until he passed in 2009. During that time, she gives plenty of interviews about what happens. Her last interview happened at the age of 81. And in that interview, she states, I got a lot of time left. And you know what? She wasn't lying because she lived for another 6 years. She died May 5th of 2016. She died at the Cheltenham Nursing and Rehab Facility. She was 3 months shy of her 88th birthday. There's a book called Cradle of Death by John Glatt. It's all about Marie No and her children's murders. There's another book called Engendered Death, Pennsylvania Women Who Kill by Joseph W. Life that also features Marie's story. The Crime Buff's Guide to Outlaw Pennsylvania by Ron Franscell and Karen B. Valentine also features a story of Marie No and the deaths of her children. There's a book called The Life You Long For. It's a novel. It's called The Life You Long For, a novel by Mary Beth Fisher, which is also a fictional account, but mentions Marie No's murders of her children. And there you have the worst case of maternal murder in recorded history, 8 of 10 children. And unfortunately, those other 2, had they not died naturally, she probably would have killed them. But just speculation based on past performance.
Yeah. Does not guarantee future results, but sure doesn't look great.
Yeah. I cannot, weeks ago we talked about the mom who was like giving up. She was like killing everybody because she wanted to save her kid because she had lost so many. And we got this one, Leonarda Cianciulli. She's killing people because she's trying to save the one kid left because all hers died. And you got this one, Marie, who's like, I wonder if it was a case of like, because she had all the issues. So I wonder if it was a case of like Munchausen by proxy. But no, I guess maybe not, because
she didn't. Usually we talk about like female killers, they fall into the category of usually they kill for like life insurance, or it's usually financially motivated in some way,
right?
But I don't see, like, we don't hear about life insurance for these kids. Wasn't this just feels evil?
Yeah, because if it was
not
like
that not one, killing for life insurance isn't evil, but
right. But like, let's say her first one had died of natural causes, and then she got that attention. Then I could see the Munchausen by proxy. But no, that wasn't even until like her 6th baby.
Yeah, and honestly, like, this is a dangerous thing for me to say, but it sure looks like being pregnant is a lot of work, and to go through that 10 times just to get the attention. Like, maybe she enjoyed the attention for being pregnant. I don't know.
Maybe this is, that's a lot of work with no payoff. And look, I gotta have a kid to be able to change the channel or get me some milk out of the fridge now. I worked. I worked for this. I earned that.
It's at some point they're going to be the ones that have to put you in the home. So it's nice to have somebody around.
I wiped your butt. Now you're going to wipe mine. Okay.
Yeah. But that was not her plan at all. I am glad, and this sounds horrible, but I'm glad she's dead. That's nice. I don't have to think about like little old creepy lady.
It's so unfair that she lived this like long, peaceful, probably
no jail time.
Kind of boring, but this long, peaceful life, no real jail time. Just her and Arthur eating dinner at 4:30 while she's killed all these kids.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right.
And maybe at the time they're like, well, she's an old lady now, so she still killed them. She still has to justice.
Yeah. Oh, we don't want to put grandma in jail. I was like, well, I don't know. Grandma that killed her, 8 kids, or admitted to 4 and forgot about the other 4.
Right.
I'm okay with that lady going.
I'm okay with her going to prison. Yeah, 100%. But there you go. That's the B-side for this week. Marie No.
So we had the, Willow with the pretend evil queen, and this completely evil queen on the B side as well. So look at us, not even planning this, but just corporate synergy all over the podcast.
Just all in sync.
Yeah, and basically, not the band, just actual syncing. So if you want to find out more about either of these stories, I have links to a bunch of different Willow sites to talk about trivia and other things from the film. So there's a bunch more you can check out. Brooke's going to have links to all of her sources as well for this evil baby murderer lady. Go to our website, aside bside podcast.square.site. You can check out all of our links on there. You can also subscribe to us on all of your favorite platforms. Rate, like, share. That would be outstanding. I know it is Christmas time for some, holiday time for most. If you're looking to get the podcast something, or looking for something for somebody in your family, you can also check out our merch. But basically the best present for us is just liking and sharing the podcast and helping us continue the growth that we've had over the last 2 years, and to buy Brooke a coffee because she has to edit all of this and it takes a lot of caffeine to find out exactly what Adam was trying to mean.
Plus, I just like caffeine.
Yeah, you like coffee. I'm not a coffee person. So you get all the coffee. We're good partners.
All right. Well,
when I was running late for our morning show, I knew if I walked in with coffee, I'd get a little less stink eye. So.
You're right. You are right. You did figure that out pretty quick. You're like, I know I'm late, but I got you a coffee.
Yeah.
Vanilla cappuccino that you like. And I'd be like, instead of
I'm still mad at you, but I'm gonna drink this.
The grunt was way less. It was just a
The best time was like after I'd been doing it for a while, there was the look of like, oh yeah, you did? Okay. It was like, you were gonna be late anyway, weren't you? And you're like, yeah. One of my life rules, if I'm gonna be late for something, at least have a good story or bring gifts.
I will say you are a good gift giver.
Oh, thank you. It's one of my few superpowers.
You are.
It just takes the kryptonite to that superpower is money.
well, there's that. But
I would be a much better gift giver if I was rich.
Yeah. You're like good at the surprise gifts too.
I've always been like, for me, I do not enjoy holidays and birthdays. It feels like there's all this buildup, and then there's just no way of it ever living up to your expectations, and you're setting yourself up for a fall. And it goes into my negative, cynical nature. But there is absolutely nothing better than on a random frickin' Tuesday getting like somebody surprising you with a gift, or buying somebody's dinner when you're out with them. Like those little things, like when you're not expecting it, it is so much better. And it feels like holidays are like, when you get a shot, the worst part is waiting to get the shot and thinking about getting a shot, and then the shot happens and it's not that bad, but everything you thought about made it that much worse. It's kind of the same way with me for holidays. I think it's going to be so great, and I build it up and I create an impossible situation. So giving gifts on other days are a lot more fun.
Well, as a
and that there's my soapbox about holidays.
As a recipient of some of those gifts, it's much appreciated.
Oh, and like any good man, I do have an FTD account because good Lord knows I need it.
Oh man. Well, go ahead. It's time for you to reward yourself because you have done another episode. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Brooke.